What is up, my dudes? This is Trent with the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Today's episode, I have my early Week 10 waiver wire ads. All my waiver wire ads are below 55% rostered on Sleeper. If you want to help us out, you found this, helpful, head over to Sleeper, enter promo code DUDES100. They'll match you up to $100 where you can 100x your money. All that good stuff. Not going to dive into it that much more other than Sleeper is the absolute best place to play fantasy football. And if you aren't playing it, your fantasy football at Sleeper, I don't know if you're a caveman or what it is, because you can transfer the history and all that stuff from your prior league. Head over to Sleeper, guys. Tell them we sent you promo code DUDES100. These are my early week 1 waiver wire ads. Like I said, I'm doing it by position. I start with quarterbacks. I end with tight ends. I have some Hail Mary ads at the end as well. They are all time-stamped in the show notes, so head down there. You can, jump around, all that good stuff. Something you maybe forgot, want to go back to running backs, wide receivers, all that stuff. Check the show notes, guys. It's all time-stamped down there. First, guys, let's hike it to our quarterbacks, guys. Hike it to the quarterbacks. We got Tua. He's getting his sea legs back, guys. He had a decent game against the Arizona Cardinals with 14.66 fantasy points in Week 8. Week 9 with Buffalo had 17.5 fantasy points. Rams, they're playing the Rams next week, traveling to LA. Rams are giving up 14.5 fantasy points per game. This is before, because it's early, this is Sunday night. This is before they have updated all the points, rankings, all that good stuff. So Geno Smith just finished QB3 in my league for fantasy points on the day. So that number is going to get jumped up a little bit. I like Tua. I think it's a good spot where he can finally get Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle involved in the game, not just Achane. Jalen Waddle's whole game was saved by that late touchdown at the end of the game, but you really aren't super happy with Jalen Waddle at the moment. I'm thinking this is a good spot where Tua can really get everybody involved, get his feet wet, all that good stuff over there with, the old Miami Southpaw. Number 2 on my list, guys, I got Daniel Jones. He's traveling to Carolina, take on the Panthers. Panthers are giving up 18.5 fantasy points per game. Daniel Jones finishes QB4. So good spot for Daniel Jones. It is on the road. He went 20 for 26, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns while rushing 77 times for 54 yards and a touchdown in Sunday's 27-22. Lost the Commanders. If he doesn't get that fumble, if your league gives, minus his points for fumbles, a lot of my leagues, that's minus a point at least. So he finally produced his first MetLife touchdown in 672 days with a 2-yard touchdown pass to Chris Manhertz in the second quarter. But I don't mind, Daniel Jones is just, captain streamer. That's kind of what he's always been. I think Carolina is another good spot for Daniel Jones. Next, I have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has had over 15 fantasy points since week 6. He's playing the Arizona Cardinals. Decent spot for quarterbacks. Looking okay. He's getting Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. I know they're making crazy catches. I don't think he's a bad bye week fill-in for Geno Smith, Jordan Love. Jordan Love's been rough the last 2 weeks. If you got Jordan Love until we see him, completely 100% or not playing in an all-out rainstorm, maybe we want to start streaming, guys. I'm thinking this bye week's coming at the absolute perfect time for Jordan Love owners. Drake May's been balling out also, guys, but he's playing Chicago. Chicago's the second worst fantasy matchup for fantasy quarterbacks, guys. So I can't get all in on Drake May. 29-41, 206 passing yards, 95 rushing yards, touchdown, game-tying touchdown with no time on the clock. Absolutely pulled a rabbit out of a hat right there at the end if you saw Drake May. If you really want to risk it with Drake May, the guy's been playing really good, playing not lights out, but he's making good plays. He looks like he's a lot of promise. Chicago, I don't love the matchup, but he has the LA Rams in 2 weeks, so he'll be on the show for sure next week. But 17 fantasy points against Tennessee Titans, who are a tough team. Also, I've had Bo Nix on this list like every single week. Problem with Bo Nix is the matchup, guys. Kansas City, really good defense, really good pass rush. He did struggle against the Ravens a little bit because that pass rush was getting towards him. Bo Nix is only 44% rostered. Like I said, don't like the matchup, and that's why he's on the list. But he's playing really good. Even that jump ball he got had a nice TD catch. So Sean Payton is getting creative in ways to get Bo Nix the ball. So that's one of, but I don't love the matchup, or else Bo Nix would be on this list over Aaron Rodgers. I like Bo Nix and Drake May more than Aaron Rodgers, but I don't like their matchup as much as I like Aaron Rodgers. So I feel like Aaron Rodgers is a pretty safe floor with those weapons and how he's been playing, just to save 15 points every week. I don't know if he's going to light the world on fire like he did in the past. I do my duds every week, my all duds team. Quarterback dud of the week, I got Kyler Murray, 4.7 fantasy points. And this was just because the Chicago Bears couldn't do absolutely anything. It was just an absolute marathon for running. I didn't like the matchup for James Conner. The Bears defense just could not stop anyone on the ground today. So maybe this is a defense we want to target on the ground. Not exactly sure what happened with Chicago today. Looked really bad. The wheels just absolutely fell off right before halftime, giving up a huge run to Emari Demercado. So Kyler Murray, quarterback dud of the week. I feel like it was just because the Bears didn't put enough points up on him to get him really going. All right, now I'm going to hand this off over to my running backs. And the running back list, guys, it's kind of short now. Like, this is just the year the running backs are kind of back. Like, pretty much if you have a running back and you're a warm body and you're getting carries, you're doing really good. My running back duds list for the week, I have Nick Chubb, who had 4 fantasy points, and I had Jonathan Taylor, who had 7.4 fantasy points. All running backs did really good today, and that's, you got to be started over 55% on Sleeper to qualify for the all duds list. So it can't just be some guy that's like 2% rostered, like I say, every single week. But running backs, guys, I have Isaac Gardindo, and he found the end zone. He looked good in week 8 versus Dallas. I know Dallas is not a good defense, and I know that they said that maybe Christian McCaffrey is going to be practicing soon. He was set to practice, they said 6 days ago this past week. Haven't heard anything on Christian McCaffrey for the last 6 days. I don't trust anything about running backs that Mike Shanahan says, so I think we need to add Isaac Gardindo, and I also don't think we can trust Jordan Mason anymore. So he aggravated his shoulder. I know he has the bye week. That's good. It kind of sounds like he could have played through these injuries in the past, and he just hasn't. So I don't know if that's enough to quite get you in Mike Shanahan's doghouse, but Isaac Gardindo needs to be rostered on your team. And even if Jordan Mason's the only other running back against Tampa Bay, that defense is absolutely terrible. I think you can play him and he will get some carries because he's, proved to be reliable. Next on my list, I have Ray Davis. Ray Davis is 26% rostered, heading over to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. 3 out of his last 4 performances, guys, Ray Davis has double-digit fantasy points in half-point PPR. Think he's doing good enough to get more and more carries taken away from James Cook. I know he had a huge play today, but he rushed for 20 yards on 4 carries, and he caught, He caught both of his targets for 70 yards and a touchdown. One of those was a 63-yard touchdown pass in the third quarter. So he just continues to look really good, and he's a really good 1-2 punch to James Cook. So I think he's getting that point where, like, he's kind of, RB3 flex worthy in fantasy football. Like, other than Seattle, New York Jets, 16 fantasy points. Tennessee, 11 fantasy points. Seattle, 2.9. Miami, 16. I know New York Jets, I believe James Cook did get hurt that game, so that doesn't really count too much. But he's getting opportunities, and he keeps doing better and better. So he's had 2 TDs in the last 4 games, sorry. And so that's on my running backs. Now I'm going to throw it over to the wide receivers. First wide receiver on my list, I have Demarcus Robinson, back-to-back games with 2 touchdowns caught, guys. Demarcus Robinson, he's been getting hot and had the game-winning touchdown Sunday, caught 6 of 9 targets for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Rams' win over the Seahawks. Big play day. He had one-handed game-winning touchdown reception, like I said, in overtime. He took a bigger role because of Puka. Puka got hurt today. Sorry, Puka didn't get hurt today. Puka hurt his team today. Puka got in a fight. I got shoved. The guy shoved him. But this was just total, like, nanny league. Like, this punch he threw was so soft. It's hard to find, like, I don't know. I watched 2 squirrels fight over an acorn once. and they both threw harder punches than what Puka threw. It was just a nice little jab. And I didn't think it was enough to get thrown out of a game, but I do know the rules that if you throw a punch, you're going to get thrown out. So he's got to be smarter than that. And also, rest in peace, Peanut. But Puka, where I will give Puka credit on this for is if you're going to punch a guy in the helmet, one, that's really stupid. And two, if you don't do it that hard, it kind of just sends the message, but it doesn't hurt your hand quite as bad. So punching helmets, it's never made sense to me, but if you're going to do it soft, I guess is the thing I would say. But yeah, wasn't a hard enough punch that I thought he should be thrown out of the game. So if he is out of the game, if he's suspended another game, I like DeMarcus Robinson a lot. If not, I'm just going to pump my brakes on this ad. But as of right now, I don't know the suspension status or how many games you missed for throwing a punch. So I got Puka. He's also on the All Duds team for this week with 1.6 fantasy points. Unless your league gives out fantasy points for guys throwing right jabs, then you're in luck. And maybe you should get more points for something like that because it's so rare. Then I got Michael Pittman with 1.9 fantasy points. And then Marvin Harrison, 2.4 fantasy points. Back to the waiver wire ads. I got Ray McLeod. That's a fun name to say, but old Ray had Drake London got injured, hurt his hip on that touchdown catch. He had 3 targets today versus the Cowboys and scored his first touchdown of the season. So he's been in the league for quite a bit, but with Drake London out, they're playing the New Orleans Saints. I think Ray McLeod is a good sleeper for this week. That's why he's on the list. And then third, this guy's on bye, but I think he's just been way too good. Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman has been going absolutely bananas since the Amari Cooper trade. His stats, he was 8 for 82, 7 for 90. And today he went, why do I not have the yards up? But he had 16 fantasy points. He had 6 catches, 75 yards today and a touchdown. Last week versus Baltimore, he had 2 touchdowns. He's on a bye this week. This guy needs to be rostered. If your league does fab, you can get him for really cheaper this week for him being on bye. Comes back in week 11 playing the New Orleans Saints. Cedric Tillman needs to be on a roster, guys. Go get him. He is only rostered 68%. Oh, so he's 68% rostered. I broke my own rule right there, but I feel like Cedric Tillman needs to be on your team, guys. Go ahead and add Cedric. Check out the wire there. And then I have Quentin Johnson. This guy's just boom or bust. It only takes one play for him, though. He is having a lot better year. Scored his 4th touchdown of the season. He did miss 2 games, but versus Cleveland, he had 4 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown. I know Ladd McConkey's the guy there, but if Herbert can keep getting these other guys involved, really helps. And he's looking good. He has some weird, he doesn't really make like contested catches, but every time I watch him make a catch, I'm like, why is that guy so wide open? Why do the guys always slip when they're covering him? I like Quentin Johnson. Give him an ad. Very touchdown dependent, boom or bust, but he has been making some big plays. Throwing it over to the tight ends, to the big guys. Number 1 on my list for tight ends, I have Taysom Hill, 31% rostered. He had a big game against Carolina, 14 fantasy points. He had, what do I got here? 4 catches off of 5 targets for 41 yards, 5 carries for 19 yards and a touchdown. I believe he did throw a pass, but with Chris Olave out, guys, I think they're going to have to use him more. Alvin Kamara's a little banged up. So I like Taysom Hill a lot in this spot. And with how bad tight ends are, a tight end that's getting handoffs every game and getting thrown to and might throw a pass, might do some quarterback sneaks. I like Taysom Hill. Needs to be rostered. Playing Atlanta this week. Next on the list, I have Hunter Henry. I talk about Hunter Henry every single week. He almost had a really good catch this week versus Tennessee. That would have been really nice in overtime, but he had 7 catches for 56 yards, no touchdowns. He is currently tight end 11 in my league right now. So go get Hunter Henry playing Chicago. We saw what Trey McBride did to Chicago on Sunday. He had some nice plays. He did get a handoff for a touchdown. So I don't know. Maybe the Cardinals just saw something that you can run on these Bears, but no one's really ran on them like this year. But they were giving Trey McBride handoffs. They were giving Amari DiMarcaro handoffs. They were giving Trey Benson So I think they had 4 different guys have rushing touchdowns. So yeah, a lot of rushing touchdowns there. And then last, I like this one. This guy's on here a lot too. Mike Gesicki, 24 fantasy points. He had 6 targets, 5 catches, 100 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And I know you're going to say, well, Trent, T. Higgins didn't play. That's probably why. Do we think T. Higgins is going to play next week? And also the Baltimore Ravens get beat up through the air, and they're not good against tight ends either. So Mike Gesicki versus the Baltimore Ravens. I like the matchup. I think it's a good spot for him. He's only rostered 20%. So go check out Mike Gesicki. And then let's get into some Hail Mary plays, guys. I got some Hail Mary ads here. I did all of my quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Here's some Hail Mary plays just for all of you guys there that just, all the sickos out there, all the dudes that just need a little bit more, that just want to scrape the bottom of the plate. You know what I'm saying? Scrape the plate, get everything off it. Hail Mary ads. Trevor Lawrence going to Minnesota. Normally, this is a really good matchup for quarterbacks, unless your name is Joe Flacco, who I only needed 2 more fantasy points out of Michael Pittman in my game, and Joe Flacco couldn't get him another pass. Not mad about it, promise. Trevor Lawrence, Minnesota, decent matchup. I know his wide receivers are absolutely battered, but it's a Hail Mary play, guys. So Trevor Lawrence at QB. Then I have Demario Pop Douglas at Chicago, they're good against wide receivers also, but Demario Douglas, Pop, Drake May, I like him. I think he's keep getting him the ball. He was targeted quite a bit today, so that's what I like with my wide receivers. He is only 36% rostered. He had 9 targets for 7 catches, 35 yards today. So he's getting targeted a lot, and that's what I like to see. And he had 7 catches as well. Next, I have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I believe that's how you say it. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. LA Chargers, not the best matchup. And he's got Mason Rudolph throwing him passes. But he has 4 straight games with a touchdown catch. So that's worth an ad right there. And it's worth a flyer. His snap percentage, even like Westbrook-Ikhine. Let's just look that up real quick. Snap percentage. Yeah, it's gone up. Since DeAndre Hopkins left, he was 92% snap percentage versus the Lions. And he had 6 targets today, 5 catches, and a touchdown. But yeah, he's getting less and less of a Hail Mary play every single week. He's only 2% rostered. LA Chargers are tough against wide receivers and quarterbacks, unless your name's Cedric Tillman, who I've already talked about a lot on this pod. And then some tight end waiver wire ads. I got Juwan Johnson from the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr doesn't have a lot of guys to throw to. Juwan's there. He's also got Taysom Hill as his other tight end, like I said earlier. And then Theo Johnson, New York Giants. Had a big game today, 12 fantasy points, 6 targets from Daniel Jones, 3 receptions, 51 yards, and a touchdown. So those are my Hail Mary plays, guys. Sorry, the running backs, it's just not, it's very bleak. I got some handcuffs I could give you, I guess. Ray Davis, I already said he's not handcuffed. I got Amari DeMarcado, Manuel Wilson, Kamani Vidal, all those guys. The good guys need to be handcuffed. Braylon Allen, you guys know the handcuffs. If you're listening to this podcast, you know the running back handcuffs. Like, come on, let's not mess around here. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, don't be rude. Share the dudes. Really helps us out, guys. If you had fun with this episode, if you liked it, if you laughed, if you smiled, if you liked my squirrel analogy, and if you like Peanut, give us a like down there, guys. We really appreciate the like. Really helps us out. Don't be rude. Share the dudes. See you on Thursday with our Week 10 preview. And as always, guys, take care.
This has been another episode of the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow. For more information, go to www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. And remember, we are sorry for absolutely nothing.